Hi, Libra. Welcome to your November 2019 Astro Update. It's Raina here, and this is a month for you that really is concentrated in the area of money that you earn. There will be some resolution to group assets or shared resources, if you will, and I'll get to that in the proper time, but the second house is particularly featured, and this is the money that belongs to you specifically, not necessarily like you and your spouse's money or family money or something like that. And then the third house starts coming into play. The third house is your local area. And I do get the feeling that there might be some Libra individuals who are even moving, and this will definitely pick up speed. I would say, especially by the end of December, when there's a solar eclipse in your fourth house of home and family. But this might be like kind of the prelude to that for some of you, kind of, checking out those things, and others might really be actively pursuing it. So anyway, the third house is also your siblings, brothers and sisters, so there might be a lot of dealings with them, and aunts and uncles, extended family is included in this, cousins. And what else is third house? Well, teaching and learning. It's the mind. It's the house of the mind. Okay, so as the month begins, we're coming into November with a Mercury retrograde, and this is in Scorpio, so that's your second house. And so, even though this is a good money month for you, there might be something that needs attention to, because there might be something that is um, improperly done, whether it's some kind of something to do with a bank, your money, your resources. And if you are thinking of moving and you have already like put down a deposit or something like that, you might have to do something with that and really pay attention to that. But remember that Mercury takes about 3.5 weeks to transit one sign. And even during the retrograde, we're talking about a similar amount of time. So it's very brief in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes these things don't even really materialize. I was just thinking about the last Mercury retrograde that we had, and it was just barely on my radar. I wasn't even thinking about it, and I don't even know if I included in some of the readings, or I forgot to and then had to go back. But the thing is, like, this time around, as I record this, the Mercury retrograde is in the future. It's on Halloween when it starts. And I'm recording this, I guess, about 10 days before Halloween, and I've had tech issues. So I don't know if this is because of the shadow period, but there are times, truth be told, that Mercury retrograde isn't even in the picture and you have tech issues. So, you know, I don't know. I have had Mercury retrogrades from hell, and I've also had ones that are not really that noticeable. I do think a house placement, where it's transiting through, might make a difference. So just keep that in mind if you have any kind of money transfers or like checks that you might forget to sign and stuff like that, just to keep an eye out for that. Um, you could be like, this could be a mental thing and not even like some kind of a mistake, where you are just thinking a lot about your finances and maybe, formulating a plan. Perhaps you have lived without a budget. I could totally see Libra people not wanting a budget, that's for sure. But sometimes we do have to rethink things. Some things might work for a while, and then they don't until they don't. And it's always good to have a flexible enough mentality where you can kind of switch things up if one thing stops working. The sun is in Scorpio in that second house until the 22nd of the month. So you're even becoming very absorbed in your finances for some reason. And maybe you have needed to pay special attention to them. Starting on the first of the month, Venus goes into Sagittarius in that third house. And this can be a good time for single Librans to meet somebody in online dating. Now, if you are cringing in horror at the thought of online dating, it might be something that is very in alignment with what air signs represent, because and what maybe a Libra person needs, actually, because if you're the kind of Libra, maybe I should say the typical Libra, and appearance is important to you because you like a person who's well groomed, who has a good sense of style, who is physically attractive, and that's just, you would just shrug your shoulders and say, that's just my preference. Well, if you have had a string of relationships that haven't gone quite the way you have planned, it might be time to rethink some of these tendencies and be more kind of like respectful of the intellectual impact on relationships. And I would say that to anyone, not just Libra. However, because you are an air sign, communication is super important to you. You like to have conversations. If you're interested in somebody who's a Scorpio, you might get like pretty darn frustrated unless their Mercury's in Sag or Libra, because you might feel that they are a man or woman of few words, and that would just kind of irritate you to no end. So that's why I say be respectful to the importance of the intellect in being able to, actually form a bond between two people. And, you can have a great physical relationship, but how you eventually have to have a conversation. And I think that a lot of times relationships that are very much kind of concentrated on the physical dimension, or the physical aspect, tend to be very volatile because the people may have nothing in common other than than sexual attraction. So that took me a long time to say that, online dating, you may get to know somebody through their mind first. Venus in the third can be earning money through some writing project or teaching project. On the 12th, and it also, by the way, could be like brothers or sisters giving you money or you giving them money, and you having harmony with your brothers and sisters. Because on the 12th, there's going to be a full moon at 19 degrees of Taurus. And this for you is the 8th house of other people's money. Full moons can shed a light on something that's been hidden, but they can bring something to closure. So if there was a will, where there's a will, there's a way, right? But if there was some kind of a will or probate issue, and maybe you didn't even know about it, and then you found out that the money has come through, and that's what the Venus in the third house represents. Who knows? The 8th house is a very intense place. This is Scorpio's house. full moon in this house can mean a sense of illumination about metaphysical topics. This can be for those who are married, that your spouse is retiring, and so he's letting go of a source of income. The full moon in the 8th house may be a time when you really let go of an addiction. The 12th house that Pisces rules is the house of addiction in terms of self-destructive tendencies. The 8th house is more of the obsessive nature of an addiction, the compulsive nature, and the 8th house can be the house of purification. Full moons are known for purification. On the 19th, we have Mars going into Scorpio. Mars is one of the rulers of Scorpio, so this is in that second house again. You may be actively earning money for the purpose of, I don't know, doing something that requires, you to save money. Maybe you have a certain project that you want to save money for. So you're working overtime, you're working a second job. This is, before this is during the holiday season. Maybe it's a seasonal little job. Who knows? Next day on the 20th, Mercury goes direct in that second house. Hallelujah. Maybe you will feel a lot more confident if this has been an ordeal for you. You resolve something that maybe got confused. That has to do with monetary issues. On the 22nd, like I said earlier, the sun goes into Sag. Venus goes into Capricorn on the 25th. And that is the 4th house of home and family. Venus in the 4th house can bring money coming into your life that has to do with real estate. If you work in real estate, then that's obvious. But for other people, it may have something to do with buying property, and the money that you have is going to be invested in some kind of real estate. On the 26th, there's a new moon at 4 degrees of Sag in the 3rd house. So if you're a teacher who has been looking for work, maybe you get hired at this time, this is also good for maybe if you've been scouting locations where you want to buy a house, you find a specific one that you think makes a lot of sense. On the 27th, Neptune turns direct in the 6th house of health and work. Neptune retrograde in the 6th house may have made you aware of certain things in the workplace that are not quite right. And it may have been a disillusioning time for you. I don't know when Neptune went retrograde, probably in June or so, because you may, while Neptune is in the 6th house, people can feel very confused. Or one of the words from I'm pretty sure I got this from one of the thesaurus, thesauri, my thesaurus that talks about synonyms. And one of the synonyms for confusion is being at sea. It's an old-timey kind of word. But it's funny because, Neptune is the god of the ocean, isn't he? It's the sea. And so when Neptune was retrograde, it may have disillusioned you. Certain things that were going on in the office. And yet, when it was direct, ever since 2011, you may have been at sea or confused about what is your service to the world. And so I feel like now that Neptune is going direct, you're going to be much more idealistic about what it is that you do. And by the way, if you have any desire to become a healer of some sort, Neptune in the sixth house may have been that influence. And perhaps that was the area where you became a bit disillusioned. Maybe you started having doubts that you could make it, that you could do it. And now that Neptune is direct, maybe you'll think that that is possible once again. Maybe you have money to continue your training and you didn't have it, and that was what made you a bit jaded. All in all, I think this is a practical month for you, Libra, and it may put more money in your pocket in multiple ways, not just through work matters, but maybe through real estate as well as other people's resources shared with you. I hope that this resonated for you. If you would like a personal reading of different kinds, I have a new reading that combines an astrological chart analysis with the tarot. So it's kind of like a special price by ordering two together. And I call it the whole enchilada. And I got like other types of readings too. My website is rainamoonastrology.com, and the link to my website is below. Take care. Bye.